Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I'm Will.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Norm.
We are in an unusual, if you don't watch other tested content, this is a shocking change of place for you.
home.
I've done one podcast from here before.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Well,
have.
several. You've been on Oktobercast a
Yes,
couple
yes,
of times.
yes. But it's rare that Still Entitled gets recorded here in the tested home office.
No, we were here we had a meeting.
Yes.
Very fancy. So it's Monday morning. We did Oktobercast this weekend. Thank you for coming by on Saturday morning.
Absolutely. That was a lot of fun.
How did you feel we were compared to your expectation at? I think you came in at like 20 hours into the show,
Yeah,
probably.
so there's this funny thing that my wife and I like to do, which is try and notice people when their faces are turned off.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
that's great.
So, you know those videos that have been talking about the condition of bitchy resting face? There's a whole YouTube video
yes,
of like,
yes.
do people sometimes misinterpret you? You might have bitchy resting face.
I have
So-
bitchy resting face.
So it's very fun to watch people at a party who are super gregarious, and then you watch them when no one's looking at them, and sometimes their faces just go south.
Yeah.
And I'm very cognizant.
But you're on the TVs.
I'm on the TVs, and I'm very cognizant that when I'm out in public, people are surreptitiously watching me the whole time I'm out in public. So as people say, "What's that like?" and I point out, you remember when you were 15 and you think that everyone gives a crap about what's going on with you, and you're like, you're performing for whoever might be watching, and nobody is watching? It's just like that, except somebody is watching.
Yeah.
Does that require practice, like in a mirror?
Well,
it's
it's very specific. Like if someone comes up and wants an autograph and they've been a little, it's weird. People can be weirdly aggressive in a way that you only get if you're standing next to them. There's just a thing that happens that some people can be weirdly aggressive even though they're asking you for something.
They don't mean. I don't
They've
think
entered
it's
your
an
space
intentional
and you've
thing.
entered
No,
their
I don't think
space.
that they mean it as intentional. But there's a way some people can ask for an autograph, which is sort of like, if you give me any crap for me asking you for this autograph, I'm going to tell everyone you were a dick.
Yeah.
Like you can tell that that's in their
no.
manner. Now, as soon as I sign every autograph, I have no
Yeah.
problem doing that. I take every picture. But when they go away, I'm cognizant that someone else might still be watching me, so I don't go, that guy. I mean, I very specifically don't do that, right? So this is a long way of saying that it was very entertaining to sit and talk to you guys while talking. You guys are gregarious and funny and engaged, but whenever you weren't actively talking or getting ready to talk, all three of you were like this.
just no muscle control.
Just like, oh, I'm using exactly as much energy as I need to do this, and then, oh yeah, the blah 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 blah.
There's a great animated GIF from
Waiting to talk.
from
I'm so
the
sorry.
weekend when we had Veronica on,
Yeah.
and she was talking about books and literature. She's a huge book nerd,
Yeah.
and telling us, and like if you watch the video, we're listening, but we're also a little like we're staring at our laptops or staring forward. And she describes a genre of literature or a specific book in which there's like samurai, and then she says with Pokemon, and the moment she says with Pokemon, all three of our heads look up as if that's the cue. Like, that was something interesting.
It's like when you watch a meerkat video and there's a predator coming. It's like, what?
And all of us did
so
at the exact same
funny.
time.
That was
Did
only
the
8 or
look
9
up.
hours in. That was
That's
early.
Great. I have gone through this. Like I've filmed MythBusters either in a terrible mood or without enough sleep, or sometimes I've been sick.
The show must go on.
The show must go on, and it would take either a very light shooting week or a very bad sickness for me or Jamie to take a day off. It has happened, but I have spent whole days filming where I'm just like this. Okay, what are we going to do next? Okay, is camera rolling? Camera set. So what I plan to do, and I'm putting everything into what's on camera and nothing else. And my crew actually often thinks it's quite hilarious because to them it's a great.
It's like
show.
the robot turns on. It's hysterical.
Exactly.
It's called being a professional.
Put some more batteries in Adam.
My soundo, Maddie Jepson, on the show, has been with us for like 7 or 8 years. He's always incredibly complimentary about that. And that in and of itself also helps feed the energy that I'm putting out for the show, because it's exhausting when you're sick to be doing that.
Yeah, we once built Lego when I had 104-degree fever. It was great content there.
Dude, there was a point, God, season 3 or 4, where Jamie got a serious flu, a bronchial flu that had him couldn't keep any food down
Yeah.
for 2 weeks. I mean, it was really what would keep Jamie out of the shop for 2 weeks is serious, like losing a limb,
Yeah.
right? And we managed to shoot around it and cover it and all that stuff. But Jamie came back in and he was like, it was pretty hairy. I mean, Jamie doesn't get seasick ever. He's like, the last time I threw up was about 30 years ago. And I definitely didn't have this mustache, which is its own horror show. And I was like, stop talking right now. I don't want to think about your vomit-caked Mo.
Oh, that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Probably looked like the girl from The Sixth Sense. I'm feeling better.
Oh,
That's an
it's like the
outtake that
Blair
no
Witch
one will
Project.
ever
Just
see.
keeps coming down. Snot and vomit
Nope,
crusted.
nope.
So
Green chunks.
Hey guys,
all in his
cardboard.
all in his flavors, all up in his flavor saver.
Norm, that's the flavor you don't want to save. Norm, it's time for another perfect segue.
Hey guys, cardboard.
So
That's good.
the Inventern is a thing that's happening right now. We picked out of the 300 or 250 some submissions, we got 280 something submissions. We picked 10 semifinals, which was really, really
That
difficult.
was very tough.
And we sent them
Yeah.
a care package with this home challenge.
Yeah,
Because if
punishment
you haven't been
package.
following this, we have a show that's running on Tested, and it's on YouTube if you subscribe. And Adam's looking for an assistant or someone to work with him on a project. And we talked about what type of home challenge we wanted to do.
Yep.
And we ended up with giving them cardboard.
So I went towards my thinking on this was one, corrugated cardboard was the first material I really sunk my teeth into. So it has a nostalgic thing. Second of all, a lot of the submissions we got, I mean, so many of the submissions we got were incredibly creative and detailed and beautiful.
Hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of work in some cases.
Yeah, exactly. However, from a standpoint of a finished product, you can see, wow, that's beautiful. But from the standpoint of being able to hire someone to work for you, a lot of times those RD projects don't tell you a lot about someone's skill set because you don't know. Maybe the thing is a bunch of happy accidents and you don't know where he went on purpose.
Well, or
he or she went on purpose.
Yeah, there's something that you can spend hundreds and hundreds of hours on, but that's not practical for the type of projects that you're going to want these people to work on, for the most part.
Exactly. And back when I used to interview people to work for me in special effects, you would very much gravitate towards the people who built something like a 57 Chevy instead of someone who built like their Dragon that they designed. Because the Chevy, I know what that's supposed to look like, so I know how close you got. So we asked people to build something in their house, to replicate something in their house out of cardboard.
At a one-to-one scale.
At a one-to-one scale.
Something, and it wasn't just something in there. I think we wanted a common household item, so it was
Right.
something that we would be familiar with.
Right, right. And that was specifically the reason. But I wanted to go back to cardboard, and the reason, that I find it so nostalgic was my two favorite things in high school were the drama club. I was in all the plays, and art.
Shocking.
I know.
By the way.
And art. The art classes.
Also
And
shocking.
My teacher, I hope he's listening, Gary Benton, was a fantastic mentor in high school. He was still at my high school when I visited it 7 or 8 years ago, and that's 30 years on. He let me try everything that I wanted to try and gave me enough structure and enough looseness that I really did get to kind of stretch my wings. And somewhere in my junior year, the beginning of the junior year, my other art teacher, Diane Masumian, gave us a project to build something out of corrugated cardboard, and only corrugated cardboard. No paint, no nothing, just cardboard. And I told my dad that was my assignment, and he literally turned the car around and drove me to the art store near our house and bought me 10 36 by 48 inch sheets of corrugated
A
cardboard.
lot of cardboard.
Just a big fat stack, and I got so inspired. I started out with the MTV logo, This would be 1984 when MTV's absolutely the only thing worth watching.
They
on
still
TV.
had music.
Yeah, they had music on.
It's
that
all
too.
they had back
Yes.
then, probably.
Right. So I made
You had
the
to
MTV
request it
logo
from your
Then
cable company.
Then I made an electric guitar, I made electric bass with strings for the string, like actual like chicken twine for the strings. Then I made a couple of I made I think an alien face hugger. I made a record player, and the record player, at that point, I'd gotten good enough with the cardboard where I was peeling off the brown paper off the top and wrapping it around. So this record player ended up being so highly detailed that it looked like a record player that you spray painted brown.
Wow.
I mean,
It's easy to jump into, but then the potential is very high.
right, and I started really playing around with all the potential of it, of doing compound curves and really mapping out what I was doing and making it structurally sound. And I ended up, for this one assignment, making like 8 pieces.
Wow.
I just never stopped.
Well, you looked at a big stack of cardboard and saw endless potential.
Right. I still remember the feeling of cutting and making and just the glorious feeling.
Well, and the neat thing about it is you need something to cut on that you don't care if it gets scarred up, whether it's a
Right.
mat or a table or something.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of razor blades, which are relatively safe and inexpensive.
and single-edged razor blades are still one of the best tools in my toolbox.
Yeah, and then glue.
Yeah.
Or tape or hot glue or whatever it is you want to use. But yeah.
So here's the thing that happened. Those projects, along with a bunch of other art projects that I had made, including a ping pong ball shooting gun and some other stuff that I was very proud of. Some of them I hadn't even made for art class. I'd made in other places, but I brought them into art class so that people could see, including the suit of armor I'd made out of roofing tin when I was 15. And the school year ended. The 2 art rooms, Mr. Benton and Miss Masumian's art rooms, they were cluttered with decades worth of crap from this public school, right? There's, it was all there. And somewhere over the summer, the principal, Dr. Clark.
Was he the villain in this story?
Oh, no.
Oh, I see.
He called up Miss Masumian and said, I need you to clean out your art room. And she said, actually, I'm getting married in 4 days, so that's just not going to happen before the school year starts. And he said, fine. And he went in and he threw out everything.
Wow.
Everything. I showed up for school and my first day of my senior year, and I went to the art room because there's a bunch of stuff that I wanted to see and I wanted to get, and it was all gone.
Oh, my God.
I mean, and what was left was like the goddamn Globe Theater out of tongue depressors. That kind of, that was the most ancient thing on those shelves, for crying out loud. And it was like, I consulted an attorney.
Yeah.
I really did. I was that upset about it and that crushed to lose 7 or 8, these really important, vital things. I'd spent the last couple of years really pouring my heart into it. I will say that the result of that loss, I didn't really invest myself in making something for another 2 years. That, it threw me off my game that
That's
that
terrible.
harshly. Yeah,
I mean,
it was awful. I haven't ever really spoken publicly about this, not by any design. It's just the cardboard brought this kind of streaming back, this terrible occurrence of all of these pieces
This is
going
like the
away.
plot of some drama. This is your flashback
Degrassi Junior High episode.
A suit
And,
of armor made to fit me with buckles and straps all out of roofing aluminum, with a helmet and everything that my dad and I built over 5 weeks. I wore it to school on Halloween of my junior year in high school and promptly passed out in math class from heat exhaustion.
And then you turn to a life of drugs and making meth, right?
I can barely describe how sad and upset that I was. I mean, really, it was just terrible.
If you haven't talked about it, you must have blocked it out at this
But
point.
the devastation that happened there only mirrors how high that art class brought you and what that kind of creativity, when you're exposed to it and when you invest yourself into it, what that type of project can develop.
Yeah, it really.
You're only devastated because it had taken
I had
you to
so
such
much
highs.
investment in it. Yeah, and I felt like that investment. I mean, and when I went to see him, there wasn't even oh, I'm sorry. It was more like, well, I just threw out what looked old.
Shouldn't have left your shit in the art room.
Exactly. And
Kid.
No, it's not
Dr.
shit.
Clark, if you're listening, you screwed up. That's what I'm saying.
You've made a lifelong enemy here. Adam Savage is coming for you.
No, I'm not coming for him.
Okay.
But
He's probably about at 90 years old at this point.
I'm also cognizant of that with my kids, right? It's like it's very tricky when you have kids that are interested in something because you're tempted, and of course you need to sometimes use the things they're interested in to punish them, to get their attention. But, Temple Grandin was very clear about that. Like, if you got a kid and they're really interested in drawing, you never take away the drawing. You never take away their ability to do the thing that they're super interested in.
And as an adult, you don't see it that way. Like the value that the maker has in what they're making, even if it's something as simple as cardboard, you can't get that.
Right.
You can't understand that.
Right. That is a text from my kid's school about the fire on Mission and 25th causing difficulty at the actual school, which is on 25th and Valencia.
There's a fire in San Francisco. We're recording this the day before it goes up, which is actually kind of unusual.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway.
So, the ping pong gun was another piece that I'm missing that I'm really sad about. The ping pong gun was a gun that shot a ping pong ball.
Just to be clear, if you took that to a school today, you'd probably be expelled and then tarred and feathered and made to march down the main street.
I believe you can be expelled from your school by doing this today.
A pocket knife? I mean, when I was a kid, everybody had pocket knives.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, there were rules.
Switchblades, butterfly knives.
No, it wasn't butterfly. No, it was like but the little Swiss Army knife.
You
that was
weren't in danger of
2-inch
losing your
one.
whole future.
Yeah.
For making a gun shape with your hand.
Yeah.
At any rate,
Stuff's crazy.
The ping pong ball gun. I had bought a pricer, like a grocery store pricer, and I'd taken it apart and utilized.
Hold on, we should explain what that is because I bet a bunch of people have no idea.
Hold on a second. Jesus, why does this keep on?
So
Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. So the price gun was a thing that took it spat out a little tiny square rectangular label, it was maybe a half-inch by a quarter of an inch, and the checker would set, or the stock boy,
yes, it was pre-barcode,
right?
yeah.
Would put that on, set it to a price. He'd dial it on the side,
$2.97,
and then he'd look at all the Frosted Flakes on the shelf, and he'd just go boom, 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 boom,
he'd sit
and
there,
tag them all.
And this is why they had the small terrible pricing.
And it usually was like the name of the store, so you couldn't bring your own price gun in and because they actually looked at the price when it was going through the checkout stand, and the cashier would be like, "Oh yeah, Frosted Flakes $129."
Was that a problem?
I assume that's why they put the labels on.
Like
that
fake,
said,
fake pricing.
This is
the
same way
going
label.
to
actually taking the price from one thing and putting it on another. That was what was shoplifting.
Yeah,
because I thought it's got to be more complicated than stealing. Otherwise, they just call it stealing.
Yeah.
Like, why is there a term shoplifting when
You're
what
lifting
you're doing
up
is
a
stealing?
sticker and
Shoplifting must mean something more complicated.
Shoplifting. The complication of shoplifting was how much stuff you could cram in your pants, not the mechanics of stealing.
The other term that flummoxed me for a long time when I was younger was jaywalking. I didn't realize that was crossing against the light. I thought it must meant walking diagonally across an intersection against the light. Like, that has to be jaywalking because...
God, then you're suicidal. That's bad enough to cross.
But so anyway, I took this price gun, which had a beautiful, big, fat, white trigger, and I took it apart and attached that trigger to a string that went up and around to this fork. So you would actually put the ping pong ball had a hole drilled into it, and it threaded onto a long rod, which was a coat hanger. And then it was captured by a fork, and when you pulled the trigger, it lifted the fork and shot the ping pong ball.
So what was
out.
the force? A spring or something?
A rubber band.
Oh, rubber band.
Rubber band stretched around the back. I loved this thing. It went into a show of artwork by kids at my local library where I used to work, the Warner Library in Tarrytown, New York. I worked as a page at the library.
Does that mean you take books back and shelve books?
You shelve books, and
that's a great
when no
job.
one's looking, you go up into the 800s and you look at all the books about sex.
If you're like
another thing that's lost with the no more Dewey Decimal System.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the fact that every 8-year-old with access to Google knows everything they need to know in excruciating detail.
Back in my day, we had to go to the library and
we had to find our pornography in the woods.
I had to find my pornography abandoned by the side of the road when I was a child.
Find the right issues of National Geographic that all the high schoolers had marked.
Cosmo.
Just look for the issues of National Geo with the spines that you couldn't tell they were National Geos.
All right, so moving on from that, that was another piece that got lost in that throwing away fever that my principal had.
The Mr. Jones debacle.
Dr.
Maybe
Clark.
he has it like in his.
Dr.
He
Clark.
saw the value in it and put it in his basement somewhere.
I hope so. Actually, I would prefer that. I would buy that. I would buy that stuff back from him.
You can say naughty words on this podcast.
I know. I tend to always think that kids might tune in, and I don't want to curse. You guys can curse, but
I don't think kids. Maybe okay. Kids should tune in. They learn a lot of good stuff.
They should, and they should just know that it's gross when young kids curse.
Yes.
It's gross for adults to watch.
There's a time and place for everything.
Yes. And if you're as tall as an adult and you're like 15, then it's okay to curse.
Yeah.
My kids are I'm a little freer with my kids now. They're
You're in the. Well, they're into the window.
yeah,
They're
in the window.
exploring.
You've watched all of Breaking Bad. I think we can use real words.
Yeah. Well, they don't use real words in Breaking Bad, though, do they? It's on
They
basic
do.
cable.
No, they get.
Oh, they
get
do.
2 F-bombs a year.
Oh, really?
They have more than that.
No,
Oh,
2.
really? 2
Yeah.
per season? They chose them carefully.
They did.
They're nicely done.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. That's
They're
good.
nicely interlaced.
Yes.
Huh.
There was a wonderful list on Cracked a few months ago of you know how R-rated,
Sorry.
PG-13 rated movies can only have 1 F-bomb.
Yeah.
And there's a chronicle of the best use of the F-bombs. And of course, the number one is
Yippee-ki-yay.
Anchorman.
Oh.
Anchorman, where
What
he
of he
says,
say in
F you, San Diego. And it's the whole movie plot hinges
right.
on this
Oh, right.
one use of the F-bomb.
Such a good movie.
Perfectly done. Perfectly timed.
My favorite part about the obscure MPA rules about cursing are the implied F bombs when they'll say when they'll get the f out and then there's a strategic cut
Oh.
so that you roll straight into something else and you fill it in. It's
Right.
there, but they don't actually say it.
Thanks, human brain.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
you mother. And back to you, Adam.
So,
sorry,
anyway,
cardboard.
Yeah.
I would totally buy that shit back from my old principal if he had somehow been hoarding it all these
Yeah.
years.
And cardboard was the great equalizer. That's why we chose
It really
cardboard.
was.
We wanted
It
to-
really was. It was one of the first times I felt like I was like picking above the clouds and realizing, oh, I actually have a skill here, and I can utilize it to do some really impressive stuff, and it's very exciting. It's an exciting sort of. Jung always talked about the Parsifal Grail legend as a great analogy for male upbringing.
Was this the Indiana
Carl
Jones
Jung.
and the Last Crusade?
Well, no, Carl Jung. Yes. So, in his quest for the Grail in the original Mort d'Arthur, Parsifal sets out to go find the Grail, and it takes him many years to find it. But early in his quest, he has a dream in which he sees it, but he doesn't know what the right question to ask is. And this coupled, there's a second thing that happens early on in the Grail legend, which is that the land is sick because the king, the Fisher King, is sick. And he's called the Fisher King because when he was a child, he was traveling through the woods and he came upon an empty campsite with a fire pit and a fish roasting over the fire. And he was hungry. So he reached out to eat the fish, but he was burned by it. It burned him because it was hot. He burned it and put his fingers in his mouth to salve the burn and tasted fish. And Jung says, this is a perfect analogy for youth, in which you can see a glimpse of what you are to become, and you can taste it, but you can't grab it. And it's a key moment in our making as humans that we get. There's a point at which we look above the clouds, and so it's written about twice in the Grail legend. Once with the Fisher King story, and the second time with and it's that story that the movie The Fisher King by Richard Gravenese is actually built on. And the second time is Parsifal's seeing of the Grail early in his quest, but not knowing the right question to ask in order to achieve it. So it's sort of it's the thing to strive for. And cardboard was that for me. It was the thing I realized that showed me what I could strive for in terms of achieving excellence in making things.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Thank
So
you.
yeah,
By the way, that is it's not like I'm a genius with a Jung analysis. Please, there's a great book by Robert Johnson called He, and there's actually another one called She, and they're about the development of men and women according to Jung's look at archetypal heroes and hero stories and how they exemplify human growth patterns and emotional growth patterns. And he is a wonderful book. It is one of these books that you read it and you're like, wow, of course, it's all there. It's beautiful. This
makes sense now.
It's very much like, and so for those who don't know Carl Jung, he was a cohort of Freud's. They had a great split. It's the movie what is that? The latest Cronenberg film, A Difficult Method.
Yeah.
And Jung ended up inspiring Joseph Campbell, who wrote Hero of a Thousand Faces, which is the book in the series of books that George Lucas was inspired by when he wrote Star Wars.
So it all comes back around to Star Wars.
All comes back to Star Wars. Everything redounds to...
This is an amazing podcast. We have everything. We have drama. We have origin stories. We have readily accessible building materials. We have Jungian philosophy.
I feel like I should have been lying on a couch the whole time.
Yeah.
That was good.
If you don't enjoy this, that's it. This is what we got.
This is what we've got.
We'll see you guys next week
See you next week.
with another edition of Still Untitled. Bye.
Bye.